Good afternoon and welcome back to the Goon Multiplayer Spectacular. Currently this is the second match between Sydin and Scotch. Now, Scotch is our Fukuhara Taira gentleman and Sydin is the Fujiwara. Now, Scotch's army is effectively unchanged from last time. It's still the two Nagi attendants, Nagi Monk Hero, two Sword attendants, some Bow Levy, two Bow Levy, and his Nagi Levy. So his army is basically unchanged, and he is going for the Sword Dojo, which is on his side of the map with the Bow Levy. Sydin, on the other hand, is heading with the Naginata Levy to capture the workshop, and has totally changed up his army. Gone are his monks, and instead he has bought a boatload of foot samurai and bulked his force with some Nagi Levy. He's also bought firebomb throwers, and of course his Tetsubo Warrior Monk Hero. Both players are gunning for the top of this ridge, and as you may have noticed, it's nighttime, which always makes for a particularly interesting fight as the fog rolls in. Quite difficult to see what's happening, but at the same time, a very impressive visual effect. One of the things I like about this game is the fact that they really do have it's just beautiful, basically. Now, as you can see, sprinting to the top of this hill has brought fatigue on the foot samurai who started running first, but I would expect that Scotch's troops will also suffer fatigue fairly shortly. Now, one thing that is about to happen, which we will note, is the angle of the attack. As you can see, these archers have a very poor angle to their target. So even though they are in fact about to fire on their target, they have to fire these high arcing shots that just don't do much damage. See, all of two men have dropped from that sword attendant in that opening volley. Now that they've stuck their heads up, however, it's a totally different story, and they're getting cut down. But Scotch very cleverly uses Banzai to ensure that his troops won't rout and will make the distance. As you can see, their charge bonus is up, but they're whistling arrows, so they're not going to do a whole lot either. Nevertheless, he brings up this extra sword attendant round the side here, and the battle is joined. Basically, we're fighting for the top of the hill. We've got these high arcing shots down these bow levy, and Scotch's bow levy have similar problems to Sydin's foot samurai in that there's just no really good arcing shots. We get a good banzai charge into the side of his Naginata Levy, and we can immediately see that these sword attendants have racked up 25 kills within just a few seconds. The Naginata Warrior Monk Hero is committed to the flank here, and the general's brought up for additional support. So we really have a bit of a full battle line going here, with a lot of pressure on the right-hand side from Scotch. Sydin basically does have the center line unmolested right now, but at this point in time he's got a couple of fairly tired troops, but he's looking like he's going to take the entire left side. These sword attendants have just shattered. Now the firebomb throwers don't want to hang around, but this left flank is basically not going to hold. But on the same time, Scotch has held the right flank and has broken it. So we've really just traded what's going on in this particular fight with with two flanks counter-breaking and both sides fairly tired. As you can see, Scotch and Sydin's forces are very tired with the yellow fatigue, orange fatigue indicator, sorry. So we should have a pretty close fight. Now, we'll see whether these foot samurai will hold or not. They are fighting against sword attendants and taking some arrows. But this force up here, these Levy and this Warrior Monk Hero, are pushing forward and have basically cleaned up that bow levy. So we are in a bit of trouble for our friend Scotch. Sydin, on the other hand, has had some of his forces rally and coming to rear charge, but the attendants and the Warrior Monk Hero should have a high enough local defense, local numbers, that they're not too concerned. Even with the addition of allied reinforcements, the foot samurai are still panicky in this case. They've just broken. But the Naginata attendants also don't like being flanked. Both these foot samurai have broken, and now we're basically in a very, very tight skirmish fight. Scotch is using his troops to try to break these foot samurai, while the firebomb throwers lob bombs into the bow levy. Now, they're not going to be able to lob enough bombs to finish the job. They've got a poor angle, and they are under ranged attack. But once again, the forces have all collapsed round into this central point here. these attendants, and the Naginata Warrior Monk heroes, 50 kills, they're all still alive, full morale, quite tired. We've got some fantastic skirmishing going on between the two general units, where they're both running around the field trying to get behind enemy forces, and so inflict morale penalties on them, while putting archer shot in, while at the same time not getting caught. Unfortunately, Scotch gets caught by these Naginata Levy here, and that's going to eat into a couple of his General's Bodyguard, really reducing his effectiveness. As you can see, both General's Bodyguards are pretty chewed up, and it's really only a matter of time. Now, Hold Firm just wore off there, and as you can see, they are completely exhausted. Their morale is shot, their combat abilities are shot, there's just no chance. So they immediately shatter now that Hold Firm's gone off. The Warrior Monk heroes, on the other hand, they hang around for the fight. They're definitely in it for the distance, which is pretty impressive, really. So it looks bad, but it could still be pulled off. Yeah, the Tetsubos are relatively low. There's only half of them left. There's still quite a few of this levy around. Locally superior force will help, but at the same time, not as much as you'd think, basically. But the Warrior Monks, now that they are fully exhausted, are starting to die. And they're starting to die fairly rapidly. And I think that's going to signal the death knell for Scotch in this particular match. He has broken a foot samurai unit with his bow levy down here, which he's able to bring up. So perhaps the extra forces he'll be able to bring to the fore will assist. 10 heroes left. He's really fighting against the clock now. Sydin's very aggressive with his general, trying to stop the bow levy from inflicting further casualties into this melee here, because the last thing he needs is for these levy to go. Rally's up, and it's going to be a race against the clock. Will the Naginata Warrior Monk heroes hold until Rally drops? Because as soon as Rally drops, those levy are going to shatter, those foot samurai are going to go with them, and Tetsubo will probably follow. It's going to be very, very close. The foot samurai back here have reformed, they've rallied, and they've put in the final shots, and that's done it for those Naginata Warrior Monks. They are now out of here. Without those monks, the two levy units, which are basically beat up, and the remnants of his bodyguard, Scotch is just in real trouble. He needs to somehow inflict a kill on that on Sydin's general, but that's really just not going to happen with the forces he has right now. Instead, a chain route's going to happen, and it will be all over. Although it was a beautiful, beautiful fire arrows, he just didn't get lucky in that particular attack. It was a desperate last ploy to try to finish it, but in the end, I don't think it's going to be enough. The Naginata levy are exhausted, and so the bow levy will actually fight significantly better than they will, and so they will actually be able to inflict solid casualties, but those foot samurai, even when exhausted, are going to just go through those levy like a scythe through wheat. The general's taken a hit, down to 7, the general shattered, and that's the end of it. So, Sydin wins, but a fantastic battle. It was really, really close. I think it really shows what happens when two good players can get engaged in the fight. They traded the left flank, they traded the right flank, they skirmished aggressively to try to maximize the shock of their cavalry that they had available. Their heroes were committed and held key linchpin points. Sydin's use of his troops overall was fantastic. He really did hold the line well, and Scotch's deployment of the hero to the right flank and held down an inordinate number of troops for an incredibly long time, and really gave him a big edge. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough, and this particular match and the overall round goes to Sydin. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope you'll watch the third bonus match.